Alright guys, I've just bring you my updated Magcro PvP build. I've actually been running this build for maybe 2 patches now. This is my favorite build in the game because it can do absolutely everything from battlegrounds to no CP to CP, Cyrodiil, everything, dueling especially. I do not change a thing in between any of those other than maybe a skill here and there, but all in all the items are always the same. So just want to show you my buffed spell damage, which is very important when you see what my sets are. So and you'll see 4,699 buffed spell damage when everything goes up, which is actually pretty high when I go through my sets. You'll notice they're all basically sustain sets. Oh, that's the, let me actually buff with a potion so you can see what my actual other stats are. Magical recovery 2,488, that actually goes even higher when one of my sets procs. Health recovery a fair bit there, that actually goes even higher when one of my other set procs. Stamina recovery is almost infinite. I am a high elf too, so again I get more stamina sustain. Max Magicka is pretty decent. Enough I think for Magcro because most of their skills, we don't use shields. I think Magcro personally scales better up spell damage than Max Magicka, so there's no need to have 40-50k Max Magicka builds. Max health is 23k, but when I go into Cyrodiil or any PvP, it goes up to 31k I believe. Max stam, healthy bit of max stam there. Spell damage, as I showed you before, it was 4.7k fully buffed. Spell resistance 22k, physical resistance almost 19k, and then crit resistance 2,679. Alright, let's go straight into our gear. First thing I'm going to show you guys, Master's Perfected Inferno. I mean, this is pretty straightforward. Our spammable is Flame Clench, so we have to basically use it. I use a Known with a Shock Enchant just for more damage. Backbar, I'm running the Resto Staff of the Lich. Powered is very important. Magcro healing is insane, so why not boost your healing as much as possible? You can go Known if you want. There's just no real need for it. There's no real damage off your back bar, and honestly, I find the best increase from Powered in my healing. Monster set, Tudun. Now, why do I run Tudun when I have an armor skill that gives me basically the same buff? Well, the main reason for that is I find the Necro Summoner's armor buff to be very expensive for what it does. I honestly don't think it's worth it. You can look at, yeah, okay, it reduces the cost of your blast burns, etc. However, the cost of actually casting this ability doesn't sort of equal out with all the stuff you get reduced from casting blast burns and stuff. So for me, I thought it would be better to drop this skill and find room for another useful skill, which I'll get into when I go through my skills. Tudun is great anyway, gives you max health and armor, honestly 2 of the most important stats this patch. In a very high damage meta, you do want those 2 stats anyway, so I think it's probably the best monster set, at least for Magcro. On my body, I'm running 3 Lich and 2 Eternal Vigor, all impen, 1 reinforced. 2 of my pieces are heavy. Oh, let me kill this thing again. Okay, 2 of my pieces are heavy. My chest piece and my legs, all heavy armor, all pretty much impen aside from the chest. Jewelry, all infused spell damage. This is very, very important for this build. My logic was, I will run 2 sustain sets, but I will get my damage from things like infused spell damage, my skills, and my enchantments. Okay, this is where my damage is coming from. Not necessarily my sets, but my glyphs and enchantments, and I think that's very, very important to get a complete build, a complete amount of sustain while also maintaining as much damage as possible. Other things I want to show you, I'm going to just quickly go through my Mundus. Mundus is spell damage, again boosting spell damage as much as possible. purely because I think that spell damage scales best with Magcro as opposed to Max Magica. We're running Bewitched because Bewitched doesn't really know other explanation. Or everything into Max Magica, obviously. No need to explain that. In terms of skills, let's just go through skills real quick. We've got Ellie Weapon, which is our main spammable, hits very hard. You can use Crushing Shock if you don't have this, it's just as good. Flame Clench, Blast Bones, Ellie Drain, Degen, Meteor, Mortar Coil, Resistant Flesh. This is a crazy burst heal, there's no reason not to run it, and it gives you an insane amount of resistances, so make sure you run it. Rapid Regen, Spirit Guardian, Skeletal Arcanist, Temporal Guard. Just quickly, for those macros that insist on running an Ice Staff or a Sword and Board back bar, you can do that. Obviously that means you have to take off Rapid Regen. Now a macro will not survive any more open worlds without another heal over time to supplement it. This isn't the macro of, you know, 2018 we had crazy amount of healing from Mender and Mortal Coil. Healing got nerfed, so what that means is you now would have to take off Tudun, you'd have to put on something like Chokethorn to basically supplement what Rapid Regen would have given, and then you would put Summoner's Armor back on. Okay, and then you can get the Chokethorn heal from your Mortal Coil, which if you look here, it's like, oh, can I see the stat? Yeah, it's healing for like 4.2k per tick. It's absolutely ridiculous. So that is your only other option if you decide not to run a Resto Staff and you're adamant you want to run an Ice Staff or Sword and Board back bar. I personally prefer the Resto Staff back bar. It's just how I'm just more used to it, and I can choose when I get the healing proc, but it's up to you entirely. Alright, last thing I want to finish up with, champion points. We'll start with this tree. 64 in Siphoner, 44 Warlord. A fair bit in Siphoner purely because, you know, people's sustain is pretty high at the moment, so I thought why not try and get their sustain down as much as possible. Really put pressure on their sustain. I do duel a lot as well. I believe in fighting through attrition, which means that if I think I can out-sustain someone, put pressure on their resources while keeping my resources as high as possible, then I would likely win. And even in Cyrodiil, you know, you can literally annihilate people's sustain with enough pressure on on them. Warlords, Arcanists, don't need any tenacity because it's just you'll never have to heavy attack with Lich and Eternal Vigor ever. Tumbling, put a bit in there. You're going to do a lot of blocking, so you want Shadow Wards. Blessed, Elfborn, Ellie Expert, Spell Erosion, Master at Arms. You want to put a little bit in Staff Expert because our main spammable is based on light attacks. 0 there. Red Tree is really just do it however you guys do it. I mean, it's no big deal. Okay, that's pretty much the champion points in a nutshell. Yeah, honestly, this build, it does absolutely everything. Stamina sustain is through the roof with Eternal Vigor, with being a high elf, all that stuff. You'll be able to block almost, and Mortal Coil obviously, you'll be able to block for as long as you desire. Damage is there, mag sustain is through the roof. If you want to go BGs, you can do that and not have to change a thing. It's entirely up to you. So yeah, have fun with the builds. It's pretty bulletproof as well in the sense where I don't use any mythics. I don't believe in running mythics on this build. I want this to be future-proof in case they ever decide to nerf Malakath and stuff. Also, I find Malakath to be cheesy as hell. I wanted to run a Magcro without relying on any cheese, and I do just fine without it. So no mythics whatsoever. Alright, enjoy.